is Kafui Dey. My guest is a trained teacher, an award-winning broadcaster, and the Honorable Member of Parliament for the good people of Tamale North in the Northern region, Mr. Alhassan SUHUYINI. Good to see you.
Always a pleasure, Kafui.
I miss clicking the fingers, but you know, in these days we can't do that.
I know, because we all have to observe the protocols.
How are you doing?
I think that we must always, at every opportunity, encourage people to observe those protocols.
Exactly so. It's good to see you. Good to see you.
I'm great. What about you?
I am excellent, excited.
You look awesome.
You look great too.
Try.
Why should the good people of Tamale North make you their next MP on the 7th of January, 2021?
Well, that's an interesting question, Kafui. I, first of all, remain eternally grateful to the good people of Tamale North for that opportunity they gave me in 2016 to represent them in the August House without any experience, because that was my first time of seeking to be a member of Parliament. And through their magnanimity and by the grace of God, they made it happen. And so I, over the years, have not taken their confidence for granted. And I am sure working with them, we have been able to do what we can to uplift conditions of life to the best of our ability under the circumstance that we have been operating in the constituency. We have also given the constituency the kind of representation that perhaps it has not seen in a very long time. The fact that it is one of the constituencies that is notable in Parliament. It is not the constituency that perhaps throughout the session you don't have the NP being part of what happens in Parliament and contributing to national development by way of either making statements, asking questions, or even contributing to bills in ways that transform the bills. So I am very confident that it is one thing they will consider when they go to the polls to renew my mandate.
That they see you and they hear you talking in Parliament.
That they see, that's why I started by talking about the upliftment of conditions in the areas that are under our jurisdiction within the circumstance that we operate. We are in opposition, but we have been able to work together to ensure that at least we support farmers in ways that we are able to. We have supported women groups by way of training them with some skills to trade with. We have also been able to put up a number of infrastructure that is contributing to the health needs of the people. For example, if you go to Ward K, we are putting up an ultra-modern clinic. If you go to Balahe, we are putting up an ultra-modern clinic as well. If you go to SUHUYINI, we are putting up a 3-classroom unit block with ancillary services with the support of Kata Charity. We are also putting up a 3-unit classroom block in Kamvile, Zanzamia, to support education.
So you're saying that all these things are your achievements?
Exactly, and that's just to mention but a few. In fact, we have supported Manaili by renovating one of their Islamic schools there. We have also put a wall that was badly needed around, public place of convenience because of the inconvenience. I mean, it was cited in the community, and the inconvenience that it created was so much. We put up this, a big wall around it so that at least everything that is done at that public place of convenience is kept there and does not, lead to insanitary conditions around the people who live there. We have done same in Fo. And we have also been able to support the palace in Kamvile. It's one of the biggest palaces in my constituency, with a place that you can call a reception center for the so we've done so many things that we believe are impacting in the lives of the people together. And that is my tagline: possible together.
Possible together.
We have achieved all of this together. So apart from this, I'm also saying that the kind of representation that I give them in Parliament is one other thing I'm sure they will consider. Apart from all the things we have achieved together that are changing lives, impacting, in our everyday life, the kind of representation is something that I believe that they will consider in renewing my mandate.
So, I mean, that's all well and good. And I know that the Member of Parliament also has to, apart from representing his people, also has to make laws and also has to safeguard the public purse, also has to watch to see what the president and his men and women are doing, and oversight, and also deliberate on policy. In terms of laws, and that should be the fundamental role of an MP, what laws have you helped to bring about that will help the people of Tamale North?
Well, maybe I'll take advantage of this question to do a little education. Our system of governance in this country is not like that of the UK or the US. We have a hybrid of the two. So it is quite difficult for you to have a law in the name of an individual member of parliament, unlike you have in the UK. What we have here is that laws are usually, generated and sponsored by the executive through bills that are brought to parliament. The role that the MPs play is that at the committee level and even on the floor of the House, you can tweak and, add on or remove from the law that the executive brings. But at the end of the day, it is the executive bill.
So have you tweaked any of those laws?
Yes, an individual member cannot sponsor a bill, law, and get it passed.
I get that.
So even before coming here, Kafui, I was on the floor of Parliament. I am a member of the Committee on Lands and Forestry. And so we are considering currently the land bill. And the land bill is supposed to streamline land registration and possession and transaction in this country. We all know the troubles that we have as a people when it comes to land management. Now, this bill, when passed into law, is supposed to solve many of the problems that are associated with, the management of land in this country. And we were at the consideration stage when I had to ask for permission to come for this show. And throughout the process, I mean, contributions that I have made, I'm sure, will lead to making the law better and serve us better than perhaps it would have been the case if we did not do some of the changes that we are doing to the law when it was just brought by the executive. So that is the role that we play, and that is the role personally I think I have played in passing laws that will help the people of Tamale North, obviously, because they are landowners in Tamale North.
Definitely so.
And they will be interested in how the land is managed.
We'll talk a little bit later about your role in the Lands and Forestry Committee in Parliament. But before we get to that, I was looking at the results of the 2016 elections, and you won quite handsomely. You had almost 68% of the vote, a margin of over 15,000. Now, are you sitting pretty ahead of December 7, 2020? Do you feel that you are untouchable?
No, every election is unlike the previous. I don't think that there is any direct correlation between a previous election and an upcoming election, because at the end of the day, when you go to the polls, the 15,000 plus margin that you speak of is not going to be in the ballot box before voting starts. Every candidate will start from zero.
So reset to zero.
Every candidate will
And it's
set
tougher
to
for
zero.
you because you are in opposition now, so you don't have the weight of a party that is in power to help you.
True.
The challenges are different.
True. But you
How
see,
do you deal with that?
The advantage that perhaps I may also have is that when I was in government, or when my party was in government, even before I was made an MP, the people were witnesses to some of the achievements that together I was able to initiate and in some cases complete with the government support. Now, in the last 3 or 4 years, we have been living under a new regime. A regime that is also interested in having someone represent the constituency, but a regime that can hardly, claim credit for any successes in the constituency. So the people now understand that if they gave me 68%, it means that they gave my party, the NDC, and its flag bearer 68%. And perhaps if this time around they make it 80%, it can help that party that knew about them and gave them projects and developments to come back to power. And once that happens, they know that because of my record of working for them and using the government support to bring about changes in the community, it will happen again. And aside that,
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Because you told me, you yourself told me
Inshallah.
that everything comes back to zero now.
Inshallah, yes.
So now that let's assume that everybody is on zero.
Yeah.
What do you have that your opponents don't have that will take you to that 80% or the 70% that you want to get in December?
What I have
elections?
again, what I always have is God first and foremost. My God is big, and I don't joke with that. I don't take it for granted at all. So I believe that at the end of the day, no matter the storms, we will smile. But in opposition, some of the things that I have been able to do are novel to especially the people in the constituency.
What's your greatest achievement
Many people will testify that in the past, the members of parliament that they had, even when they were in government, gave excuses about certain needs that the people hoped they will attend to, either because the government was not helping them or because they were in opposition, they were unable to do it. Like the infrastructure projects that I just spoke about. I mean, not many MPs who had the opportunity of even serving at a time that their party was in government in that constituency could do some of the things that I've been able to do.
Okay, so
but even in opposition, the people see
that
the efforts that you are making.
Okay.
The fact that at least every 3 weeks maximum, I am with them in the constituency. No matter where they are, in whatever condition that they find themselves in, I am with them in the constituency. At least, at most, I must say, at most every 3 weeks.
Okay.
Do that sometimes weekly. And it is not like a constituency that is just a simple drive away from the capital. It is a constituency that, if you are going by road, you will take 9-8 hours to do.
So
But
you are visible.
I'm still visible on the ground.
And you are doing things on the ground.
And by His grace,
Okay.
we are also achieving some level of, transformation
Okay.
for our people.
Thanks for that. Let's shift the spotlight away from Tamale North to the bigger picture, to Ghana, and to the performance of the person who is at the head of affairs right now. So the president and his government. What's your brief assessment of them so far?
Well, so far, I think that it is clear to many who want to be objective that we have a government that is not only disappointing, but arrogantly dishonest.
I wouldn't expect you to say anything else because you are from the opposition.
I wish I didn't have to say those things, but I'm also saying them because there are so many examples that point to the fact that they have, one, been a disappointment even to their, adherents and supporters. That's evidence. I can give you names of people who are disappointed. So I'm not just saying that because I am opposition. I'm saying that because it's true. And then arrogantly dishonest, I can give you countless number of examples. Currently, we are, on this debate over whether or not there's a need for us to have a new register before we go for the elections or not. And you have a party that over the years have contributed, and you can't take it away from them, to the transformation of our electoral process over the years. How have they done that? They have done that especially when they are in opposition every time, by calling for changes when we moved from opaque ballot boxes to transparent ballot boxes. It was when they were in opposition, they asked for it, campaigned for it, got civil society support. They asked for the register to move from thumbprint to pictures to color. All the they have done that. Even the biometric register we did in 2012 was at the instigation of Dankwa Buzia tradition. Dankwa Institute started, the NPP followed, the civil society followed, the chiefs followed. And in the end, the party in government found the budget to do it, even though the party in government at the time didn't think it was necessary.
So they will say they are furthering democracy and they are introducing innovations that have helped Ghana's system.
Like I said, you can't take it away from them. They have done that. But the arrogance comes in whenever they are in power and others call for reforms. The arrogance with which they treat such calls for reforms or for, for the reforms not to happen. Today you have the chiefs saying one thing, you have the civil society organizations saying another, you have all the political parties saying another, but
so they are not listening.
They don't care
to the voices of the people.
That for me is arrogance of power.
And I'll allow you to take a little water break, and we shall return after this short break. You're watching The Next MP. My name is Kafui Dey. My guest is the Honourable Member of Parliament for Tamale North, Al-Hassan SUHUYINI. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. You're watching The Next MP. My name is Kafui Dey. My guest is the Honourable Member of Parliament for the good people of Tamale North, Al-Hassan SUHUYINI. Will he be the next MP come this December 7 when we go for the polls, and then on 7th of January 2021 with the investiture of the MPs? We'll find out. Only time will tell. Mr. SUHUYINI, you are not happy with the performance of the current administration. You feel that they are arrogant when they are in power and are introducing reforms that Ghana has absorbed in the past, especially when they were in opposition. But what they're doing, is it illegal?
Well, you see, there's one thing about doing what is legal, and there's another when you are doing it, when you are doing the legal thing the wrong way. Now, I use that as an example to illustrate, the arrogant display of power. But it is not the only example of arrogance that you see from this government.
One man's arrogance is another man's confidence.
No.
Yeah, it just depends on how you see it.
It depends on how you see it.
Yeah.
It depends on how you see it. But you see, when it comes to governance, that's why we speak of stakeholders and the role that stakeholders play. But when you, for example, introduce an education policy or a law that is considered detrimental to tertiary education development in this country, and you have lecturers and school administrators from all walks of life who may even belong to all the parties that you have in this country, or the different parties that you have in this country, all speaking against it.
Remind us what you're talking about.
I'm talking about the universities bill, the tertiary universities bill. And yet, you don't seem to give a hoot. When you tell people that you are going to construct factories in every district when you get into power.
The one district, one factory policy.
Yes.
Or plan,
yes.
promise.
And then you come into power and you are not doing that. And you don't even have the presence of mind and the respect to admit that you are not doing that.
But shouldn't
You
you
are
be
not
happy?
doing-
Shouldn't
you are
you be
not-
happy
you are
that
not doing-
your opponent is not fulfilling their promises? So that you just campaign on it. You should be happy.
Nobody is happy that Ghana is not getting better.
No,
I
but you
can't
want
be
power.
happy.
You want power.
I want power to transform this country. And if a government that I don't belong to is failing, it doesn't make me happy. It makes me sad.
It makes the opposition happy.
No, it doesn't. It only makes the opposition's work more difficult, because what it means is that when you come into power, you are going to have to spend more time and more resources and more energy to correct some of the mistakes that the governing party is doing.
And that's the same argument that the current administration will say, that they say they spent a lot of time fixing issues that were broken because of your administration.
What are they fixing? They told us that we were borrowing too much and that they were coming to fix that. Not so. Dishonestly, they have tripled borrowing. Arrogantly, they won't even admit to it. They still will use words as if to say that the people are not intelligent. They told us the exchange rate was that high when it was not even up to 4 cedis, 50 pesos to a cedi. Today it's gone beyond 5, getting to 6. Arrogantly, they won't even concede. They use words to explain to us. They told us fuel was too costly. A gallon of fuel for 20 or 21 cedis was too high. Today, we are almost paying 30 cedis for it.
So
That is not fixing a broken system, because if 20 was broken, you can't tell me 30 is fixed.
30 should be more broken, eh?
Obviously.
Super broken.
Super broken. So.
You seem to have a problem with the way they go about, because you've kept repeating, they said it arrogantly, and they so if they were to say, we are sorry. If they were to say, we are sorry, would you be happy if they said, we are sorry, we misjudged, we were outside, we didn't know what was happening, now we are in the kitchen, we realize the kitchen is so hot.
I was just going to give you that
example. We
example.
are sweating, we are sorry.
I was just going to give you that example. It worked for President Kafui. It did. When President Kafui won the 2000 elections, one of the first things he did was to apologize to the people of Ghana for some of the promises he made, because having taken over the helms of affairs, he realized that some of the things he thought the former administration could have done easily are not doable easily like that. And so asked for Ghanaians to tighten their belts. Ghanaians, being the forgiving people that they are, they understood that this was an honest man who wanted to do right. And so somehow they supported him. But what we have in President Akufo-Addo's government is propaganda, dishonesty, deception, making us, they shift the goalposts and they want us to accept that that is what they told us. We didn't listen to them well before voting them into power. For example,
are you disappointed? I mean, before you became a politician, you were probably sitting in the seat that I'm sitting in right now.
Right.
Illustrious career at Radio Gold, City, Metro, Diamond.
Right.
Are you disappointed? Are you impressed with Ghanaian politics now that you are actually in the helm, in the thick of affairs? Are you impressed?
I got involved because I was disappointed. And I thought that sometimes it is not just okay and enough to sit aloof and be disappointed about the system when you have the opportunity to get involved and contribute the little that you can to perhaps sanitize or improve the system. Since I've gotten involved, I've had, several reflective moments. I've had what I will consider mixed feelings about our politics, about our future as a country, and about the roles that each of us are supposed to play and how well we even know the roles that we are supposed to play and expected to play. So for me, it's a reflective thing. I'm still undergoing that process of reflection.
Has the film come down?
I won't say it has come down. It's like a drawing board. You know, my understanding and my perception of issues are beginning to reform for the better. But it is because I am better informed and I have hands-on experience now that illustrates to me what may be wrong with our system. So the moment I am in now is reflecting over all the information that I have and perhaps thinking of what next, the way forward, how to get to that way forward. So the vim hasn't come down. You can say it has been harnessed for perhaps proper direction and movement.
Do you see your role as a member of parliament to be effective? You spoke earlier about how in Ghana the MP's role is not the classic one you have all around the world. Our hybrid system hamstrings you in a way. I mean, if you were to advocate for any changes in your role, in your job as a parliamentarian, what would those changes be? I mean, to make you more effective?
I think that I like the British system. If we could go all British.
Why can't we have a Ghanaian system?
Exactly. We are trying the Ghanaian system, but
which one is the Ghanaian system? Poto poto or the mix?
Yeah, just the mix. You see, it is workable, but we need to spend, in my view, more time on education. And the MPs will not be the right people to do that sort of education that is required. Let me give you an example of why I think education is key. People are very familiar with the MP's Common Fund.
This is the budget that is allocated and shared to members of parliament.
MP's Common Fund. MP's Common Fund. You go to the constituencies, MPs are emergency numbers. That's how I tag us. Yes. Anyone who has an emergency in the constituency is likely to look for the MP or his number.
What was the request for the most recent emergency call that you received? What did the person ask for?
There was this funny one that...
Or the most exciting one?
In fact, it was I think it was a text message. I still have it here. I could share it with you. The request was that he needed my help to get some contact within the National Lottery Authority so that they can give him some too-sure banker to stake.
Oh, I see.
So that he can solve his problems. He doesn't need money from me.
Just a contact?
Yeah, he just needs me to get him a contact so that they'll give him too-sure to stake.
But people ask for...
those are some of the ridiculous requests.
But you have the weddings and school fees and
those ones are the normal ones.
Okay.
I'm telling you the abnormal. That's why I give you an abnormal example. But you see, such a person can be offended and decide to say that you are not helpful.
What did you do?
And decide to campaign against
you. Did you give him the numbers?
How am I supposed to? How do I even know how it works? But I'm just telling you. So we are emergencies in our constituencies. Now, the Common Fund is, in my view, there's the need for people to be educated to understand that it's not actually MP's Common Fund. It's District Assembly Common Fund. And the MP just has a share.
Because as the MP, you sit in the assembly.
Yes. So, but the
with
fund,
other members.
The fund, that budget, is allocated to the district assembly to carry out development for everybody.
Okay.
But there is a 5% share for the MP. So you can imagine, out of 100%, people focus more on the 5%.
That comes directly to you.
That comes to the MP.
Okay.
It doesn't even come directly to the MP. It is kept at the assembly, but utilized and managed by the MP. So you have, for example, 100,000 for the assembly's development for 4 months. 5% of the 100,000 may just be 5,000, right?
Is that the figure for Tamale North?
Yes. No, I'm just giving figures.
I want the figure for Tamale North.
The last release was 160,000 Ghana cedis for the Sanarigo Assembly.
Okay, of which you are a part.
And so out of it, I get 5% of that. That's
8,000.
That's about 8,000.
8K.
Do you understand?
CDs.
Yes. And now I'm supposed to do the roads with the 8,000, not the assembly. I'm supposed to pay the fees with the 8,000, not the assembly. The assembly that has 160, in fact, we're talking about 80,000, not 8,000, 80,000.
No, 8,000. 160,000, half of it, 8,000.
Yeah. So I'm supposed to do all of that. The roads they want done is the MP. The drains they want done is the MP. The school fees they want you to pay is the MP. The loans they took and they are not able to pay should come from that.
But it's the MP who on the campaign trail says, I'll do roads for you. It's the MP who says, I'll build you schools.
Fantastic.
It's the MP who says, I'll build you hospitals.
Fantastic.
So now who costs them?
Fantastic point. It is true that the MPs during campaign commit themselves to do some of these things. But let me give you an example of the reason why I think that we should have education. Yes, it's the MP's role to ensure that the people get their share of the national cake. It's the MP's role, not so. So if the MP is well representative, I mean, it's a good representative of his people, he will be able, especially if his government is in power, to influence budgetary allocations.
And unfortunately, your government is not in power.
If your government is not in power, that's a different thing. That's why I am able to get in touch with NGOs like Qatar Charity.
Okay, so that's a plan B. You speak to NGOs, CSOs.
Because the MP is part of development in the constituency. You can't say the MP doesn't have a role to play. But I'm saying that in every place around the world, central government leads in development and all others follow. Like MPs, like NGOs, they follow. But when you have a situation where the focus is on the MP and not the central government, then it calls for education. For people to understand the supporting role of the MP. So if the MP says, if you elect me, I will ensure our schools are done, our roads are done. First of all, you need to assess the ability of that MP once he becomes an MP to influence, for example, government budget allocations to education or health. Will the MP be placed properly once he goes to parliament to be able to request when budgets are prepared that allocate this amount of money to do this road in my area? If you don't have an MP or a person with that charisma, with that character, or with that opportunity, he'll just warm your seat in parliament for you and perhaps come back and give you excuses.
So from what you are saying, if Mr. Mahama had won the election in 2016 and you, of course, had won you won your seat, the story would have been different. You'd have been able to do a bit more because your government is in power.
Absolutely. You see, and at the time that I was even a candidate, I demonstrated it a little.
Okay.
By way of initiating some projects through lobbying of central government. The interesting thing, however, Kafui, is that at the time, my opponent, who is now on the ticket of the NPP, was the incumbent MP. And his rebuttal was that, oh, I'm lying. I am not an MP and I'm not a DCE, so how can I be leading projects in the area? But yes, I wasn't MP, I wasn't DCE, but my government was in power and I was close enough to the corridors of power to influence it.
And then you can make it happen.
The interesting thing or the irony is that today, at the time he spoke that way as incumbent MP, he was an independent MP. Today, he is on the ticket of the NPP as their candidate. He's joined the NPP and he's on their ticket as their candidate. And now, he goes around telling people that every government project that is done, he's brought it.
Okay.
When he's not MP, he's not DC.
He wants your seat. He wants your seat.
But he should be honest. I like honest.
Briefly.
He should tell the people that I lied to you when I said Honorable SUHUYINI couldn't do that because he wasn't MP or DC. It can happen.
Yes.
So he has learned maybe a useful lesson from me.
Okay.
That is, if indeed those projects are connected to him. I know they are not.
I'm sure he's
they
watching.
They are assembly projects. Some of them, in fact, just a few of them.
All right.
You know, but
that's the
I'm
way
sure
it goes.
the people are,
that's the way it goes.
Are discerning.
And they are watching. Briefly, before we jump into that break, so a lot of members of parliament have been speaking against corruption. I've seen your posts on Facebook and Twitter speaking about it, and it's all talk for us watching. How should corruption be dealt with as an MP? How do you guys do it?
Well, first of all, I am a member of an association in Parliament. It's an association that is made up of parliamentarians across the world. And we are MPs against corruption. APNAC, that's the name of the association, APNAC. You know, Association of Parliamentarians Against Corruption. And that is one way of contributing to the fight against corruption, because you need advocacy. You need people to understand the devastating consequences of corruption on all of us, and how together we can win the war against corruption. So it's one of the reasons why I am a member of APNAC, to do advocacy against corrupt practices. But as a people, we first of all have to understand that corruption is a power thing. And I have come out.
So those in power are more likely to be corrupt. Is that it?
And what is power?
Control.
Good. So I have come up with this phrase that it seems to me that the more power you have, the more corrupt you are. Or the more power, the level of power determines the level of corruption. That's how I put it. The level of power you have determines one's level of corruption. So a classical case, you are a secretary. You are in charge of files for, say, teachers under GES. That's power. Not so.
Sure.
You control the files. So you can decide to say a file is missing.
Or sit on the file.
You can say the file is missing. And so if a teacher who wants the file for promotion comes and wants the file, and you claim it's missing, that's the power you are exhibiting right there.
How do we rectify this?
The teacher may offer to pay you maybe 50 Ghana cedis, and the file will be found.
Okay, like a release fee.
Like a release fee, and the file will be found. You may not think it is corruption, but you are playing with your level of power. Tomorrow, if those two people, maybe the teacher paid 50 Ghana so that he could get the promotion that will earn him 500 Ghana. Not so. So he didn't see any, difficulty paying 50, because he knew that once the file got to his hand, he will be processed for promotion and he will get 500 Ghana more. Tomorrow, change their status. In my view, that's what it is. That's what our corruption in this country is about. Change their status. Make the secretary a district chief executive. The secretary who can hide the file, make him a district chief executive. And the teacher who will be willing to pay the 50 Ghana, the 50 Ghana for 500, make him a contractor in search of a project at the district worth 50 million. That secretary who didn't see anything wrong taking 50 Ghana is now in control of a project worth 50 million. What do you think she would do?
And I want you to think about your question, because I'll ask you for a solution after the break. You're watching The Next MP. My name is Kafui Dey. My guest is the Honorable Member of Parliament for Tamale North, Alhassan SUHUYINI. And when we return, if you didn't know that he was a class teacher before, well, I'm telling you now, he's going to go through a marking exercise. So you stay tuned. This is The Next MP. You're watching The Next MP. Thank you. My name is Kafui Dey. My guest wants to be the next MP for the good people of Tamale North. Come January 7, 2021, he is Mr. Alhassan SUHUYINI. And it's been a very interesting conversation so far, talking about the issues that matter to not just the people in your constituency, but the whole country. And we were talking about the solution to corruption. You gave a really interesting scenario. What is the solution?
So the solution is for all of us to admit our roles, no matter how significant or insignificant they are, in making our country as corrupt as it is. The assumption or the notion that people in power, and power restrictively defined.
People like you're also in power.
That's the restrictive definition of power. Are the corrupt ones. Is the reason why over the years, every time we change people for being corrupt, those that we replace them with 10 or seem to be even more corrupt.
But we have grand corruption and petty corruption. We need to punish those who indulge in grand corruption to serve as an example that the people on the ground.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you see, if you are always at the top, punishing and dealing with grand corruption, whilst breeding petty corruption, you have a long way to go in dealing with corruption. Because it's like cutting off the head and growing new heads every time, and the heads gets bigger, and you keep cutting and you keep cutting, because we are a product of our society. We, those in this restrictive definition of power, that is political power, we are a reflection of our society. People are not plucked from heaven to become MPs. They are not plucked from Mars to become presidents or ministers. They come from amongst us. And so some of the ways we find acceptable are magnified when we put them in positions that are bigger. That's why I gave you the scenario between the teacher and the secretary. When you make the teacher a contractor in search of a project, that petty corruption that he engaged in is going to be the motivation to engage in that grand corruption.
So what's the magic bullet, briefly? How do we solve this? We've talked about it.
We need to punish.
Okay.
And we need to punish at every level. Because if, for example, a secretary is sacked at GES because consistently there are reports of her taking 50 Ghana cedis, a lot of us are going to say, oh, but we're in Sue.
It's too small.
But that is where it starts. Okay. So we need to punish.
So punish.
And don't restrict punishment to only grand corruption.
Okay, so punishment is the way forward. Now, I know you probably may miss your class teacher days because you were a class teacher back then, yes. So, but I'm going to bring it back to you now. We're going to go on a little assessment exercise. So I want you to rate the current administration on a couple of issues, yes. So on corruption, what's your rating for them on a scale of 1 to 10?
On corruption, I associate with the Transparency International report. It's worse. It's terrible. Everywhere. And the president, unfortunately, is a chief clearing agent. He seems to be patronizing corruption. And a lot of civil society organizations, especially in the field of the fight against corruption, are quite disappointed in a number of interventions that he has made that they thought did not help the fight against corruption at all. So it's terrible. It's bad.
Media freedom.
Worse.
You are saying this because you used to work at Radio Gold.
No, I'm a media
person. Does it pain you? How much
me.
Does it hurt you that Radio Gold is no longer on the air?
It is not just Radio Gold. Mantambo Radio is off.
You didn't work at Mantambo, did you?
XYZ is off.
I'm talking about Radio Gold.
It hurts me that there seemed to be a systematic attempt to create a certain uniformity, media uniformity.
If you read the NCA's justification, they said, listen, you must operate with a license, which is valid.
Yes.
So if they did not have a valid license, what's the justification for your
regulations are what they are meant to do.
You just talked about punishment.
I talked about, yes, I understand. What I'm saying is that regulations are to reform a sector. Not so. It's to reform. And that is why many radio stations and television stations will tell you that in the past, they all, one way or the other, have fallen foul of the regulations. But what happens is that you are giving opportunities to correct, the infringements so that you move on, because it is a growing industry in this country. Remember, the media freedom we are enjoying now is young, just as young as our democracy is.
If your presidential...
Kafui, the attempt over the years has been to support the media to grow and not to clamp it down.
If your presidential candidate wins the election, will you resurrect Radio Gold?
Obviously. I mean, I don't think that any radio station must suffer unjustifiably. I don't think so. And you see, the media, there's this international organization, Freedom House International. They have done a research. And perhaps those of us or who are lovers of media, we must make time to read that and see the role we should play to defend the encroachment on the media.
Okay.
Because that report highlights that many governments no longer brutally and frontally attack journalists and media houses, that they use regulations now. In the name of regulations, they create a certain uniformity of media that they are comfortable with. And that is what I see happening in this country, unfortunately.
So you're not happy
so it is terrible.
So you're terrible
and
grading
again,
for media freedom.
international agencies have said so. Ghana has slipped.
Infrastructure development, what's your ranking?
Poor. In fact, if you look at the budget, the amount of our, the quantum of GDP that is allocated to capital expenditure is woefully inadequate. It has gone down drastically compared to the previous regime. I think about less than 3%.
88 hospitals are coming.
That is the propaganda and the dishonesty I spoke about earlier. Every district was promised a hospital by Nana Akufo-Addo, the president. Every district. He said once he becomes a president, all districts without district hospitals will have
I didn't hear that from. I had one D, one F. I didn't hear one district, one hospital.
It's in their manifesto.
Okay, all right.
It's in their manifesto. It was promised, I think, page 44.
Oh, wow. You know it
Yes,
that
it
deeply.
was in their manifesto.
Page 44.
Yes, I'm very sure about that.
Economic empowerment.
Do you understand? yet you wait until Corona and then you are left with 1 year to go and you come and tell us you are doing district hospitals.
We'll talk about Corona pretty soon, but anyway. Economic empowerment, what's your ranking?
I don't know who they are empowering where.
The people who, the vulnerable, I've seen the ministry for business
small,
development, helping the disabled, helping the young business people. You've got all kinds of youth schemes, gender-based schemes, schemes for the disabled. Come on, there must be some positivity.
The youth enterprise support was set up and launched by President Mahama, and money voted and it started work. All they have done is to change the name from youth enterprise to NEIP also. National Entrepreneur something. That's all they have.
A rose is still a rose, no matter what you call it.
Yeah, but that is not anything that is significant because they said that was incompetent, and so they were coming to do something better. If competence means changing the name and still doing the same old thing, then I don't know. I'd like to be called incompetent.
But that incompetent type.
But what I know, Kafui, is that so many people have lost their jobs. They have had to change their children's schools because they cannot even pay for the fees of the schools that their children were attending. People have had to move from homes that they were living in because they can no longer afford.
But there are
people as a result of government reckless action to rein on financial institutions, not just banks, but the loan schemes that operated in this country. Creating, so many job losses.
In other words,
killing Ghanaian entrepreneurs.
You're not happy with the economic empowerment issue.
Killing Ghanaian entrepreneurs.
Okay.
How many banks do we have now that are Ghanaian owned, that are indigenous? None. Yes, a few, a handful. You can count them.
Education.
Education is in shambles.
Free SHS is working for people who couldn't take their children to school. It was a trump card, and it brought the president into power and his party.
Free SHS.
Can you argue against free SHS?
Remember, the NDC's opposition to free SHS was not that it was bad. The NDC didn't say free SHS is bad. NDC said, yes, we agree with free SHS. After all, it is in our constitution that education must be progressively free. So we agree.
Where's the but? But the but?
The but was, if you do it the way you want to do it, you will destroy our education system.
Is that what is happening now?
Green track, red track. Is that an improvement of our education system?
You've got to handle the situation in such a way that you get people to go to school. The thing is to get people to go to school. So you shift it and you've got to be innovative. That is the argument they give.
We said that you can achieve the same results without breaking the box.
Is the box broken?
That's how come you had to introduce a stopgap measure.
But it's not forever. It will end at some point in time.
Well, you could have still achieved free SHS by expanding infrastructure like the NDC started and doing it progressively. So you don't have to break the box and introduce a stopgap measure.
All right.
That will, in the meantime, affect education.
So you're not happy with education. In one word, handling of COVID-19. One word.
Reckless.
Management of the economy. One word.
Reckless.
Who is your political mentor? Don't tell me reckless. Let's take it home now. Just tell us, I mean, who brought you into politics? We've done the assessment now. It's all over. Let's talk about, yes, who do you look up to? Who's your political godfather or mentor?
It's difficult for me to pin it on one person. I get influenced variously by different
top three
group of people. Nelson Mandela, at a very young age, I started following his politics. I loved Obama and President Rawlings, obviously, influenced my politics as a young person a lot.
So Mandela, Obama.
With his identification with the masses and the people.
Okay.
So from the top of my head, if you don't want me to add Osaji for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, I'll stick with the three.
So Mandela, Obama, and JJ.
And JJ Rawlings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talking of home, I read how your wife last year wanted you to, just leave politics. Does she still think that way, or she's now adjusted to being the wife of an MP?
No, she hasn't.
She hasn't adjusted yet.
In fact, it's been, even I think last weekend we're talking about it at home with my siblings. It's still something they tease her with.
What do they call her? I know for a pastor they say Sofumami, so what do they call you? MP Iri or what? What do they call her?
No, well, yeah, the MP's wife.
MP's wife.
That's, yeah. But it's not a field that she thinks I like my nature, suits. But
does she get hurt when people are attacking you and insulting you? Because politics can be dirty.
In fact, I don't think she worries about that much. She worries about how it stresses me. Okay. About how the job stresses me.
But you look relaxed.
Not about how, well, that's the thing. I mean, you can't hide certain things from your wife. You share the home and the room with her.
Yeah.
So if you put a strong face out there, that's always a point that one has to break down, and and there's someone you will break and be real. And so yes, her problem is with how it stresses you and not the insults. I think she worked in the media, so she understands the insults and the heckling and the up, and that one she understands it. Yes. But it is how the job stresses you, and she sees that it's making you into a person, a different person than you used to be before you join politics. And so every now and then she has to draw your attention and caution you that, hey,
take it easy.
Take it easy.
And finally, for your two princesses, I mean, what do they think of daddy being an MP?
Well, I'm sure they are too young to understand what is going on. I mean, the first one will wonder why you always will go to Tamale every weekend. Is it grandma you are going to see every time? Why is grandma not coming? You are always going.
That is working.
Yeah, and when you say you are working, she doesn't understand how that is working. And then you tell her you are going to work, and then maybe she puts on the television and she sees you. You get back home and she says, but daddy, you said you were going to work and I saw you on TV. She doesn't understand.
She doesn't understand. She will understand soon.
Yeah.
Listen, it's been great talking to you, the Honourable Member of Parliament for Tamale North. Brief message to your constituents as we wrap up this show. You want to be the next MP come January 7, 2021. What do you tell them?
Well, I just want to, first of all, thank them for the support that they have given me over the years and the opportunity that they gave me to represent them in 2016. I don't take it for granted. I don't take it lightly. I will remain eternally grateful, and it is my hope that based on what we have achieved together and what we are focused on achieving in the future, I will get their mandate again. I promise to serve them honestly, diligently, and with all the humility that I can gather, like they know me to be. I thank them.
And I thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. And that was the Honorable Member of Parliament for the good people of Tamale North, the Honorable Alhassan SUHUYINI. And my name is Kafui Dey. Till the next time, keep watching ENT. And I'll see you again for the next episode of The Next Day.